Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video we're going to talk getting started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar 3rd Edition, and today we're once again going to be taking a look at the Soulblight Gravelords, and in particular looking at the Vyrkos Dynasty today. In this video, we'll go over what exactly makes a Vyrkos Dynasty army special, and then we'll also look at some units we should start our collection with. So our first couple of units to grab some, get some models on the table, and get playing some very basic open play games. And then we'll look at what we can expand upon to get that army up to 1,000 points with some other additional units added to the force, and finish off the video with a little 1,000 point sample army list for you to use to either use as some inspiration for building your own Vyrkos Dynasty Soulblight Gravelords list, or indeed, if you want to use our list, go for it if that's what you want to do. So with that all said, what makes Vyrkos Dynasty special? Of course, it's a Soulblight Gravelords army, so it gets all the generic rules for Soulblight Gravelords, but it gets two additional things as well. First of all, friendly Death Rattle and Deadwalker units can add 1 to their wound rolls whilst they're nearby friendly Vyrkos vampire heroes. This is really cool. It means our vampire heroes become incredibly useful in the army. It means they make our Death Rattle and Deadwalker units better, and +1 to wound is just such a hard bonus to come by that it's just really useful having it there. A really solid one. And on top of this, all our Vyrkos vampire wizards can reroll casting rolls. Straight away, looking at these two benefits, you can see that we're going to be wanting to take vampires and I guess some undead minions, whether that is Death Rattle or Deadwalker units. This is sort of the combination. Now, we obviously are playing Vyrkos, so the theme of this is definitely the Wolven sort of vampiric theme, but we get direwolves as battleline standard in Soulblight Gravelords, so there is no special sort of battleline unit for the Vyrkos Dynasty. However, it should be said there is a ton of special characters for the Vyrkos, more than any other dynasty. They have so many characters available to them, named ones that get all the benefits, thanks to being from the Cursed City box set. But where do we start with our Vyrkos Dynasty army? And I think Belladama Volga, first of the Vyrkos, is a great place to start. She, first of all, is just an absolutely stunning miniature, one of my favourite Soulblight Gravelords miniatures available, but she gives you a really good piece to start your army around. First of all, she is a 2-cast and 2-dispel wizard, which is really nice, and she's got, you know, okay combat potential with her Time-Worn Scimitar, 3 attacks, 3/3, Ren 1, damage D3, and then 6 attacks at Force 4s, no Ren damage 1 from the 2 wolves on her base. Movement 10, 9 wounds for 4 up save, bravery 10 as you would expect from a death unit. She's not terrible. She's never going to win any major prizes in combat, but, you know, your opponent can't throw chaff into her, she will probably deal with them. First of the Vyrkos is a cool ability which adds 1 to her casting, dispelling, and unbinding. Cool, so not only are we getting rerolls with her, we're getting bonuses as well. In addition, roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to her if she's within 3 inches of a friendly direwolves unit, and on a 3+, she puts it on the direwolves instead of herself, so she can really have some cool rules there. She's obviously got the hunger, which she can do a bit of self-healing if she manages to kill any models, which is nice, so she can, you know, trying to get a little bit of extra healing on her. She can go, you know, stab a couple of chaff units or weak units in your opponent's army and get some wounds back. But she's got a really cool command ability called Pack Alpha. She can use this at the start of your hero phase, and if you do so, you pick a friendly direwolves unit, hold within 12 inches of this model, and until your next hero phase, the unit is eligible to fight within 6 inches of an enemy unit instead of 3. Really useful for playing around with how combats work. She's a fantastic control piece, and this is even better portrayed by the access to her spells. Lycan Curse is a casting value of 7, and it does D3 mortal wounds to an enemy unit within 18 inch. If any enemy models were slain by the spell before removing the last slain model, you can add 1 unit of direwolves to your army. The number of models is the number equal to the number of models in the enemy unit that was slain by this spell. Set up the new unit within 3 inches of the slain models unit. Really good control spell. She can kill models off in a unit, you target them, and then you potentially put direwolves in combat with them, making them have to fight out of the combat. This can be really useful for just tying up annoying enemy units, potentially locking them in, forcing them to do stuff, stretching them across the table. This has so many uses. As a control sort of piece, she's got a lot of control sort of benefits to it, allowing her to sort of dictate how the game is going around her. Now, obviously, with that, Direwolves is something you're going to want to grab. You obviously probably want to go and grab a couple of boxes to start with because you're going to want your unit on the table and you're going to want ones that Belladama can use a spell for as well. Direwolves are a pretty decent battle line unit. I think they are incredibly underrated when compared to things like zombies. They don't have the damage output that the zombies do, but the fact they add one to hit wound rolls for attacks when they charge in the same turn means they do have 2 attacks at 3s and 3s, no rend damage 1. So pretty solid. 2 wounds as well on a 5-up save, meaning you are getting 10 wounds on a 5-up, 6-up because you're a death unit. For 135 points, Direwolves are just a really solid unit as well with 10-inch move as well, so nice and fast. Where do we go for other units available to us? And I think Radikar the Beast is a great piece to add. One thing with Vyrkos is generally because we have these more support characters and something like Belladama, you don't have as many hammers. So something like Radikar the Beast is a really good unit to have available too. A really strong vampiric character, 12 wounds, move 8, 4-up save and bravery 10, as you would always expect with that bravery. And then he has 6 attacks at 3/3, rend 1, damage 2. With his Bloodstick Claws, and then 6 attacks, 3/3, rend 1, damage D3 with his Piercing Blade. So some really cool sort of attacks coming out of Radikar the Beast. He can do a ton of good damage. Also, he's got the ability to run and charge in the same turn. The Hunger, obviously, for vampires. Subtract 1 from hit rolls that target him and melee due to his supernatural reflexes, and his Unleashed Ferocity allows him, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with his Bloodstick Claws is a 6, it inflicts 2 mortal wounds on the target and the attack sequence ends instead. So some mortal wound output as well. His command ability is really solid as well. It allows you to pick one friendly model with his command ability that made a charge move in the turn, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Soulblight Gravelords units within 18 inch of this model till the end of the combat phase. So, you know, being able to put an extra attack out. And then he's also got another command ability called Mustering How, which he can use once per battle, is really nice. And he summons a unit of 10 Direwolves to the table. So, really, you're paying like 200 and something points, not the 315 for Radikar the Beast. In fact, you're paying less than 200 for him because you're getting 135 points of Direwolves out of that command point of him. So some really cool utility. He's going to bring extra models to the table along with a nice heavy hitting power piece. Really, really solid option. Now, looking at our 2 other units available to us, Dead Walker Zombies and Death Rattle Skeletons are our other sort of summonable units, and both provide a very different role. Dead Walker Zombies are a glass cannon. They can put out a decent amount of mortal wounds. They generally have more wounds per point than any of the other sort of battle line options available to us, but they do die like flies. So if you're looking for something to be able to put out some mortal wounds that's going to go in, you want to make sure they kill whatever they touch, or at least severely hinder and hurt whatever they touch, so they don't have to take hits back. Meanwhile, you have Skeleton Warriors, Death Rattle Skeletons, who are the opposite. They are a unit that likes to be charged. So you can get charged by them, and then when they get picked to fight, they roll a dice, and for every one of their models that is slain, they roll a dice. On a 4+, that model comes back to life and joins in the attack. So they're really good at sort of bringing their force to bear. If your opponent doesn't deal with them entirely, they come back and they start punching back. Really cool, solid couple of options for units, both with very different roles and how they sort of play. Now, speaking of other characters, I've put down here Gorslav the Gravekeeper. He generally works really well when you have zombies. He's got the Arise command ability, where at the end of your movement phase, you can pick one friendly summonable Deadwalkers unit that's been destroyed. Now, this is summonable Deadwalkers, so this means your Direwolves as well, and add a replacement unit with up to half the models from that unit that was destroyed, so he can bring back Direwolves as well. He also has a cool ability where he can palm off wounds to Deadwalker units near him, very similar to Belladama, but on a 4+ rather than a 3+. But there are plenty of other options. If you're going for more skeletons, you could definitely take a look at someone like Watchcatcher Halgrim. He has the Discipline Advance ability, where you can pick up to 3 friendly Death Rattle units, hold within 18 inch of him, and until the end of the phase, if you declare any of those units will run, do not make a run roll, instead move 4 inches instead. So you've got some really cool sort of options here. You've obviously got other special characters as well, in the form of like Lady Annika and Kritzer, who is a really cool piece. There's just a lot of stuff you can use for Vyrkos. You've got all the other cool pieces like the Kosagi Night Guard, even using Radikar the Wolf as well. Instead of Radikar the Beast, you can only include one version of Radikar. Obviously, it is the same dude, just different times. But let's have a look at a little sample army list we've put together. And so here we have our little sample army list. We've gone for Soulblight Gravelords, obviously Vyrkos, Inshaish, all that sort of stuff makes sense. Grand strategy, we've gone for prize sorcery, mainly because I think Belladama is just going to be so hard to remove. Though, we do have a decent amount of battle lines, so you could probably go with something like Hold the Line as well, would certainly work just as well. Now, Belladama Volga is going to be our general, and she's going to have the spell Soul Pipe, which forces when our opponent charges to roll a number of dice equal to their charge roll, and every 4+ they do a mortal wound to themselves. This is just another good control spell that Belladama is going to have access to, another really great sort of control piece. Really, really useful stuff here. She can just do so much with that control on the table. You may struggle to get the most out of her in your first few games, but once you start learning the tricks of how 6-inch pile-ins and forcing your opponent to have to make choices with Soul Pike and tying enemy units up in the correct sort of manner with her Lichen Curse spell, she can really be a very, very useful piece on the table and frustrate your opponent to no end. Radakar the Beast obviously in here as well, and then for Battleline we've got a unit of 20 Direwolves. This unit is incredibly difficult to shift. That is 40 wounds there on a 5-up, 6-up. That can potentially come back as well as they get healed. Really, really solid. 20 zombies in there for a nice little glass cannon of some mortal wound output, and 10 death rattle skeletons just to provide us with a unit we could probably stick near Belladama and use as her little sacrificial unit until something else is needed. Now, it's worth noting here, remember we've got Radakar, so the fact we've got a command point in the force here will mean that there is another 10 direwolves on the table. So while this really says 91 wounds on the table, there's actually another 20 wounds in this army right from the get-go. So, you know, it's 111 wounds at 1,000 points. That is a lot of wounds. That is better than, you know, well better than the average number of wounds, and not to mention every direwolf that Belladama would summon with Lichen Curse as well. Very likely you've probably got 130 odd wounds, if not more, from bringing models back as well. Just a solid amount of wounds and meat on the table. Now the army's wrapped up in a battle regiment. There's really, you could potentially go for something like a Hunters of the Heartlands if you want, but your units are just getting thrown away. I don't really think you need it. Battle regiment being able to dictate that first turn and get things like making sure Radakar can use that command ability if your opponent's playing a shooting force, so they can't take him off turn 1 before he gets his direwolves out, is pretty important. Same with Belladama. Like I said, if you're playing a shooting army, using something like Lichen Curse to put 3 direwolves into a shooting unit that's terrible in combat is a pretty good option. You know, if that unit of sentinels is shooting you from across the table, use Lichen Curse against them. A couple of direwolves jump in the unit, all of a sudden those sentinels try and fight them. They're not particularly good in combat, and if they're in shining company, they're not in a very good place to be able to fight back on, you know, getting some models attached to their flank. Really solid stuff there. Like I said, 91 wounds, but there is, you know, 20 wounds hidden plus Belladama's wounds worth of models. 985 points means we're 15 points under. There's a chance we're going to get a triumph, and we've gone for the +1 to wound in Inspired. All in all, a really solid army list with a lot of bodies and a lot of wounds down on the table. This is a fun Soulblight Gravelords list to play. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below and let us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the video's description to our Discord server. And lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so either via Patreon or YouTube members, and both of those are linked again down in the video's description. As a special thanks to all our Patreon and YouTube members, I'd like to give a shout out to them all. So a special thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Dynet226 and Derek. And a special shout out to our YouTube members: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Shelf, Ariana Airwoods, and Sean Scott. Lastly, a special thanks first of all to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for our channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing Discord server background work for us. Thank you all for watching. Once again, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.